Welcome back, everyone. My name is Anise with Tubular Labs. I'll be the track chair today. Hope everybody had a good lunch. Had a couple of great presentations this morning. Already really excited for these next couple of sessions. Right now, the next presentation is Mining for Gold, using attitudinal data to drive programming decisions with Leanne Prittikin and Karen Ramsbacher. Leanne is the Senior Director of Content Innovation Analytics at Viacom. She provides advanced analytics and audience insights for Viacom's adult brands, Comedy Central, BET, MTV, VH1, Paramount, CMT, and TV Land. Prior to her current role at Viacom, she led consumer insights for Spike and program research for MTV. Leanne also has also held positions at TV Guide, Network, E! Entertainment, and the Walt Disney Company. Karen is the SVP of Innovation and Insights within MRI's product and management team at GfK. She previously held her positions at Participant Media, Fuse, and NBC Universal as well. So please welcome Karen and Leanne.
Guys, well, thanks for the introduction. I like to think that I'm the luckiest person at MRI because I have the best job. I get to work with the best team. And what I do is innovation, building new things, putting our chocolate with other people's peanut butter. And in my insights role, I get to work with great people like Leanne, who's over at Viacom. Leanne, I don't know if you wanted to add a little bit about the CIA.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Leanne. Nice to meet you all. So our team is called Content Innovation Analytics, which stands for CIA, and we made that up because we really wanted that logo that looks like a spy, because we think that makes us sound cooler and more important. We are a new team. We're about 1.5 years old. And our primary mission is to use advanced analytics to provide deeper insights into the media viewer.
Yeah, that's perfect. So I love working with a spy, so thank you for being here. What I'm going to talk, stay away from that. What I'm going to talk about is a study that we have at MRI called content drivers, which is really what drives people to eat the television they do. Where do you want me to stand so I don't make, okay, stay here. Is my what? I don't think so. Right. Okay, so how many people in the room are program researchers? Okay, a few. And how many people in the room use MRI? Oh, very few. Okay, so hopefully y'all, who doesn't know what MRI is? Because that'll give me a baseline. Okay, good. So Fremantle. I love Fremantle. You guys make good shows. Okay, so MRI is a big survey that's done throughout the year where we go into the home and we choose very specific people and we talk to, hey, Becky, we talk to you in person about your media attitudes and behaviors and who you are as a person. And then we leave behind a huge product book, 117 pages, and it covers everything from baby lotion to batteries and cars and all that. Yes, so you know what it is. So what we do in the Insights group, and Jillian is really the one who actually did all this work, we actually build products on top of the national survey where we go deeper into a topic. And this topic is about what drives people to eat the content they eat on every platform. So what we did was we did a survey online with 10,000 people, 500 shows, and 73 motivations. And this is our second wave. The first wave had 91 motivations, but we were able to boil it down a little bit. And these are, when you're a program researcher, what the drivers are is kind of like finding your special needle in the haystack. So if I had had a prop, I would have brought a pitchfork so I could help you guys bale the hay. That's our goal. It's really about being the vault, or in this case, the balance beam, off of which the program researchers can do their own proprietary stuff to find their magic sauce. Or another bad analogy would be, we provide the landscape so that you can find your road to success for your program. So, yeah, thanks. It being the Olympics and all, I thought I should have some sports references in there. And so what Leanne is going to talk about is the kind of proprietary stuff that networks do, but what we have is a syndicated offering at a much, perhaps lower price point that allows you guys to have a baseline to start with. So we like to think it's very useful, and then we also tie it to the ad sales world of consumption. And now we get to the geeky research part. So I just wanted to share some of the top line findings and then kick it off to her so she can go in depth. What we did was took all the motivations, and the data science team did a factor analysis. And I'm just showing you an example of the learning one, because this year the learning moved up 10 places in what's motivating people to eat television. Fascinating finding. Never seen this before in all of my I don't know, almost 20 years as a program researcher. Learning always was in the area of kind of dry stuff, which these are the factors that load for learning. So it makes sense, and those are some of the shows that are actually over-indexing and high-performing vertical shows. So this is what the factor analysis looks like. The other thing I wanted to tell you about is that shared experience moved up 2 points too. And a shout out to the Disney presentation coming next, which will talk about some of shared experience stuff. So overall, the key drivers, there are 2 that are table stakes for television. You won't be surprised to hear it's relaxation and escape. Duh, that's why we go to TV, right? But the cool stuff is what changed this year versus last year, and what people say drives them to television overall. That's what's in the green, and what they actually drive to television on a per show basis. It is slightly different. What's in the green actually was true for both what I say I go to TV for and on a show-by-show basis. These are the top ones overall across all genres. Makes me laugh, makes me think. Now that's interesting. They've both moved up in the rankings, and I would attribute it to the fact of our political climate, perhaps. We need a laugh and we need to be thinking. And Leanne would say quirky characters might be part of that as well. So I think that there's some truth to that. Good for co-viewing is actually also much higher than it was before, and you'll see that revealed in the segmentation as well. And Tommy's going to do the presentation about drivers later as well, so I'm sure he'll give a nod to that. Now, what's in the blue is flawed characters and outrageous characters. Those were not self-admitted behaviors. Those are ones that came out on a show-by-show basis. So I imagine that that's really important to build into your programs, and you can look at it lots of different ways. So you can take our data and roll it up any way you want. You can do it on a network-by-network basis. You could do it by genre, which is what this is here. Not surprising for drama, not surprising for what's on there for info and doc. Something new in comedy. Last time we did this, comedy loaded highly for sarcasm, slapstick, satirical. This year, the order was slightly different. Quirky characters and flawed characters really popped in there for the first time. In reality, there was a big change as well, and somebody asked this question yesterday, and I couldn't help giving a plug to this data. Really, co-viewing and slapstick humor for the first time are showing up in reality, and reality is a really mature genre now. And then when we looked at it by entity, the things that we saw for broadcast and cable are what you would expect. And again, you can roll this up any way you want. But I'll make a note on the premium channels and the streaming channels. What we saw in common for the premium and streaming channels were characters that are confrontational, characters that I can root for, and characters that are different from me. That was in common for both. What was differentiating was for premium channels like the Stars, the HBOs, the Showtimes, outrageous characters, and it keeps me on the edge of my seat. Makes sense, Game of Thrones and things like that. What was new for streaming was overcomes challenges. We hadn't seen that last year, and makes me laugh. And I would say, obviously, the streaming entities are offering more comedies than they have in the past. And then, of course, we wouldn't be a research firm if we didn't give you a segmentation. So I would encourage you to think of this as a very general landscape segmentation of television. And what we see is a 13 segment solution based on a cluster analysis of how the motivations clustered together on a show basis. So we have 4 heavy viewing segments, and my favorite one in here are boundary pushers, which are what they sound like, and we haven't seen them before, but they love very edgy content, and TV togetherness. Again, a very big segment of people who are being drawn to television for co-viewing and actually talking about it, the talk factor of togetherness. The middle thing here is basically typical viewers, and I'll dive into laughing learners, but I also want to point out the multitasking judgers who are very busy in their lives, and they love the judgy kind of aspect of a lot of the reality shows today. And then the light blue are the light viewers, so that's where we find a lot of our comedy viewers and the chuckleheads, and the feel-good busy bees are very interesting. They like to just sit back and relax with things that make them feel good, but they're very busy in their lives, so they're not doing a lot of viewing. So when you get the study, this is what we do. We dive in deep, and we give you a couple slides for each of the segments. The laughing learners, I believe, are part of that whole rise in laughing as learning as a motivation. And they're 7% of the United States, about 15 million people. And they love to learn, but they need a laugh as well. And you can see that reflected in their top shows. It really bounces back and forth between 60 Minutes and Modern Family, right up there for their high viewing and high indexing programs. And these are all the learning things that they pop for, and then all the humor things. And then demographically, of course, we give you what they look like in the United States. They are slightly older, but not as older as some of those info people used to be. So it's coming down in age. And then everything you can learn in MRI, which magazines load for them, which I think really helps give them color, and then how streamy are they, and the idea that they go to television when they're feeling curious. So it's meeting a specific value nugget need. And back in the early 2000s when I was doing this kind of research, we saw that people were really looking for a value nugget in TV. And I would say that that nugget has really grown into a full tree expressed by this segment. So you're probably saying to yourself, very nice, what do I do with this? Well, this is a picture of last year's segmentation, what I call the cheat sheet. And I always say to people, if you just take one thing away, take this one slide, and somebody printed it out and hung it in their office. And ideally, they're looking at it and they're figuring out where their brand lives, which segments pop for them, and then they can use these insights as their filter, a starting off place, and then add their special sauce on top. Also, shout out to GFK hand sanitizer, go marketing. So now I'm actually going to turn it over to Leanne, who's going to go deeper into her genre.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. Oh, yay, clapping. That's fun. So I'm going to talk to you about a genre analysis that my team did. And what's really interesting is when people ask me, what does your team do? And I try to explain, well, we really work across the brands. And one of the best parts of my job is that we get to help the brands with different things, but in a lot of ways there's a similarity. So we can help with the genre of scripted or the genre of comedy or the genre of animation and use those insights to help the brands in each of their individual ways. So the first genre genie that we did was for the animation landscape. Who here watches animated content? Okay, a big group of people. A lot of times when people think of animated content, you might think of Saturday morning cartoons, depending on how old you are. You could think of kids' content or a few of those big hits like The Simpsons, which has been on for 30 years, or Family Guy, which has been on for 18 years, and shout out to our own South Park, which just celebrated its 20th anniversary last year. But in reality, animation is just one form of communication, and it's one form of expression. And a few years ago when I was at MTV, we did a focus group on an animated show, and one of the participants said, with animation, you can exaggerate things that you can't in real life. And we know that our real life today has a lot to exaggerate. So we sought out to understand the animation viewers to really help all of the Viacom brands that we work with. And this was a really fun project. Our data scientists are in the front, so thank them for all of the great analysis they did. And we're really going to go deep in terms of what we did. So here is our methodology. We have a monthly survey called Audience DNA. And in that survey, we strive to understand what drives people to TV viewing in general and what drives people to viewing of a specific set of shows. So we took one of the waves of that survey and dedicated it just to animation. When we got the data back, we did some deep dive analyses on that content, and then we looked at what people were getting from the animated content and built a segmentation model. From there, we created look-alike modeling so we could see what their behavior looked like in Nielsen, as well as some of the great insights we could get from MRI. There were 44 shows included in this analysis, and you can see just from the pictures that animation really covers a scope of content. And our study had 85 need states, which covers a range of benefits that viewers can get from content. So the first step in our analysis was to break people up based off of the genres that they said they watched. So they could say they watched animation only, anime only, or both. And you can see the things that they want from TV in general. This was a top 10 list. There's some similarities across the groups. They all want to laugh. They all want strong visual effects. But you do see some differences. For the animation groups, unpredictable main characters pops out. And for the anime groups, you see that some of the thrills, edge of your seat pieces pop out for them. Then we looked at the content itself. What are people getting from the animated content? And there were three main things that drove their viewing. It was characters, humor, and edge. And as Karen was speaking to, quirky humor, outrageous characters, that really did rise to the top for this group of content. Next was a gap analysis. So I've noticed that whenever we present this, nobody really understands what we're talking about. So if you're not math friendly or you had drinks at lunch, this is a super simple explanation. If what you wanted was a 4 and what you got was a 3, you were 75% satisfied, which is 3 divided by 4, and the gap was 25%. So with that little explanation, this is a gap analysis of those 3 groups in terms of what they wanted. So you can see with the animation viewers, they're pretty satisfied with their animated content. They're saying, yeah, I'm getting what I need. You can maybe step it up in terms of visual and special effects, but that's a need for all of the groups. The groups watching anime, they're saying, you know what, I could use a little bit more of a balance between humor and seriousness, and they also want more thrills. Then we took a deep dive into the shows. We plotted the 44 shows on viewership and affinity, and this is fairly standard. But what we saw when we looked at the benefits of each of these 44 shows is that they broke into clusters. And in these clusters, we categorized them. So the shows with the strongest viewership and affinity, we call the beloved hits. And they were giving viewers the opportunity to really watch easily. They had outrageous characters and humor. These shows down here that were popular with less love, there were a lot of similarities, but they didn't have characters that popped. Rick and Morty stood alone up here. And they had a lot of similarities to the beloved hits, but everything had a stronger level of an intensity, and there was even more notable characters. The shows that were in the middle were very similar to Rick and Morty, but with a muted score range. And then over here we had anime. You don't even see humor come in at all. It's visually stunning, there's a lot of adrenaline, and it leans into right and wrong. So now, segmentation. This is the fun part. So we segmented the viewers based off of what they were getting from animated content. So if you remember what we heard yesterday, how different people can watch the same thing and because of their own lives see things differently, we saw the same thing happen. People could be watching the same animated shows, but if they got something different out of those shows, they were into different groups. We saw that there were 5 groups, and they were relatively evenly distributed. So the 5 groups are comic cartoonists, diversity humorists, edgy wannabes, the imaginative and opinionated group, and dark drawings. So starting with this first group, the comic cartoonists, this is probably the group that you think of when you think of people watching animated shows. They tend to be younger, they're really tech forward, friends follow their lead, and they like humor that brings people together. In their content in general, they like a blur of right and wrong, and in their animated content, they like making fun of real-life workplaces, their favorite comedians, and casual background viewing. And because of the look-alike modeling, we were able to see what their ratings in Nielsen were, and they over-index in a few shows, including Viacom's South Park. So we're going to show you a clip that speaks to their need for making fun of workplaces. We need sound.
God,
What, the principal and vice principal?
I told you we couldn't hide.
But you two work together. You two work together.
Hey, what the hell's going on?
They're together!
Who's together?
The principal and the vice principal!
They can't be together. They're co-workers.
Okay, so that's making fun of the workplace. Our second group is the diversity humorists. This is the most female and most diverse group. They tend to be spontaneous, risk takers. In their content in general, they like favorite actors and actresses and even like having a crush on those actresses. And in their animated content, they like seeing a funny spin on pop culture, relevant issues, and content that is diverse. When we looked at Nielsen, we didn't actually see any shows that specifically popped with this group, but when I did a Google search of some of these benefits in animation, I found a clip of a Kevin Hart animated series from a few years ago that speaks to what this group needs.
And if no one else has anything to say about the late Miss Nancy, I'd like to have a moment of silence before we send her to her final resting place.
We were almost free. It was almost over. But just when you think you're out, there's a crazy relative waiting to pull you back in.
Okay, our third group is edgy wannabes. This group tends to be conservative. They skew a little bit more male. They feel the traditional family structure is best. They make jokes about others, and in their content, they want to see relevant topical issues. And the benefits of their favorite animation include peeking in secret, seeing alternative lifestyles. They also like to see people out of their comfort zone and things that shock them. They over-index on Archer. Is anybody an Archer fan in this room? Okay, there's a lot of Archer fans. I am not an Archer fan, no offense. But when I went to find a clip, I was actually a little bit shocked. So you probably won't be.
Who? Scarra Fawcett and Baby Huey?
Bitch, you better apologize.
Or what? Or this?
So I wasn't really expecting that, but that is animation. Okay, our fourth group is imaginative and opinionated. This group is the least diverse of all the groups. They have a taste for sci-fi, their personality, they're socially awkward, they're outspoken, they can be brutally honest. And in the content that they watch in general, they like jumps from their seat thrills as well as high-tech gadgets. And in their favorite animation, they like kind of sci-fi type things, life after the world ends, life on other planets, and life in the future. And they have a strong sense of right and wrong. So if you remember from the comic Cartoonists, one of the things they wanted from TV in general was a blurring of right and wrong. They want a strong sense of right and wrong. And their key animated shows may be less familiar to you, but in this clip from Hunter x Hunter, you'll understand that they do have a strong sense of right and wrong in their content.
The wind really seems to be picking up. I'd say there's a storm coming.
I'm a bit worried. Gon should come home early on a day like this.
Oh, he's probably having too much fun. I think he feels his father's presence when he's out there in the wild.
I know, but he promised me that he'd come back before dark. I don't want Gon to become the kind of person who doesn't keep his word. He should know better.
That's right, people should know better. They should keep their word. Okay. Unlike the first clip where, the vice president. Okay. So the fifth group is dark drawings. This is the most male of all the groups. They tend to be into things before the mainstream. Their definition of funny changes daily. They're judgmental and they like offending humor. Like the previous group, they like jump from their seat thrills, but they have very different needs in their animated content. They want really dark content. They want content that's visually stunning and new music. So again, their animated shows, The Brock Show, Dragon Ball Z Kai, Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell is very dark, and yes, this is animation.
We've lost response. What's happened to the EEG output?
It's normal. I'll switch to Cymex mode.
In case you haven't been briefed, this is the minister's interpreter. 23 minutes ago, her brain was hacked into through a data line. Foreign intelligence warned us about this. A hacker called the Puppet Master has begun to infiltrate terminals throughout our network. We believe it's extremely likely that he'll target the secret talks that are scheduled with the Republic of Gavel.
So I think that's dark. That's just my opinion. So our next step was to plot this on a correspondence map and see how the different groups relate to each other. So two of the groups, comic cartoonists and diversity humorists, leans toward the axis of funny. Edgy wannabes and imaginative and opinionated lean towards serious. And on the other axis, relaxed and intense, you have dark drawings. So you can see that the groups are sort of similar in some ways, but just from the examples through the animation and their needs in animation, you can see how different they are. Then we layered in the 44 shows, and they really cover a breadth of the map on the two main axes that illustrate the difference of animation. And this is something that I know nobody can read. I can barely read it. I needed new glasses for this. But the benefits that you get from watching animation, it covers a wide range. But to illustrate what we're talking about, I pulled out just a few shows as well as a few of the need states. So the shows on here are 4 of the 5 shows that we just discussed. Over here we have South Park, which is in the relaxed and funny space. We have Archer, which is in the funny and intense space. And then we have the Ghost in the Shell and Hunter x Hunter, which live in the intense and serious space. Here, there's a white space. And what's interesting is just yesterday, Fox announced that they were picking up an animated show based off of Kevin Hart called Little Kev. And I would anticipate that when that show comes on the air, when we put it on this map, it's going to live somewhere between racially diverse and favorite comedians, right in here. So this is an illustration of the different ways the brands can use this model to help them make decisions about who they want to be, who they want to talk to, and where some opportunities are. And now I'm going to turn it over to Karen to talk a little bit about MRI.
I love that study so much because it's a perfect example of where and how to spend your proprietary dollars and go much deeper into a space. So then we were able to work with the Viacom team to put the 5 segments into MRI and profile them so that you can see them in their full world, if you will, beyond just their television viewing. So when you look at the attitudes about who they are in their lives, it lined up perfectly with what Leanne was drawing. Their activities, you learn more about what they do in their free time. So you can see the edgy wannabes are cooking for fun, and the imaginative and opinionated are playing fantasy sports leagues. No surprise there. And then you can get the sense of who they are from their magazines. And most importantly, what we can do is take the programming research and make it work harder in the ad sales world by lining up the brands. So what brands, what categories, what types of purchases are these different segments going to make? And then that way, as she builds new shows, or the team builds new shows, they can actually go out and get sponsors for branded content as well as product placement and, of course, ads. So this is my last little pitch. What you can do with MRI is put them in and get a full picture of who your viewer is in all parts of her life, and then through our partnership with Datalogix, go ahead and activate them in the DMP world. And someone else was talking about match rates earlier today. We have very high match rates through Datalogix, above 80% with our MRI people, and then you can blow that up to the scalable, addressable US. So that's good news. And so why would you want to do that? So that you can actually promote your shows, get the ads on air, and help your clients make money.
So we've spent about a half hour as researchers talking about animation. So we thought it would be fun to take a minute and see what happens when animation talks about us. Sound?
Today, we're going to show you some itchy and scratchy cartoons. We want you to tell us what you think, and be honest, because no one from the show is here spying on you.
Welcome to Planet Streaming. Would you like to upgrade for an ad-free experience? Only $3.99 a month.
Planet Streaming? I thought this was Planet Nielsen.
What the hell? There they are. That's the Nielsen family.
You ruined television. Now it's just a big old silly mess.
Who liked that version of Promo 7B?
Yes, I just came right out and grabbed my attention.
Excellent.
Why is there a penguin in the desert?
You each have a knob in front of you. When you like what you see, turn the knob to the right. When you don't like what you see, turn it left.
My knob tastes funny.
That's what happens when you fill in the letter C for every answer. Gets the whole test over within 5 minutes.
So that last clip was actually from MTV's Daria, so it was fun to be able to put Viacom shows in the different clips. So I want to say thank you. Karen's going to say thank you, and we are now open for questions.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.